All right, good morning. Today is April 8th of 2025, and time is 10 a.m., and we'll open up this work session here to discuss Spring Valley Ranch roads. And I'll turn it over to Monty.
Good morning, Monty Hankins, Elbert County Public Works Director. Yeah, I have requested to meet with the board upon discussions with the developer of Spring Valley for filings 1 through 3. With the previous commission, we did navigate through some issues where the roads had never been accepted. The developer did a punch list repair per initial engineering's inspection, and they did perform all the necessary repairs. Even after that, it was determined that since we aren't moving forward with taking interior subdivision roads, i.e. EC West, EC East, things of that nature, those will all be Metro District maintained, that we would only take, and also per our regs, the collector that ran through those older filings, which is basically Augusta Loop. The developer has kind of had several conversations with me since then about the bonding and the taxes for the folks that lived in those older filings, that we have accepted not only the collectors but the loop roads, and this is a good example. Those are the highlighted roads through there. The loop roads that go from a collector back to a collector. And that is kind of the format we've done with the rest of the filings of Spring Valley. I know we've already made the decision, and I might have jumped the gun or called this meeting unnecessarily. I guess in all fairness to folks that live in there, I want to make sure the county was doing the right thing. But also from a road and bridge standpoint, everything we add is somewhat of a burden at some point in time. You know, road and bridge and the funds that we receive, we are focused on the main roads, numerically named roads, 13, 21, those kind of things, to bring those up to a decent condition. Just like we paved from 13 to Delbert on 166 last summer, we have to build our budget for X amount of years to pull the trigger on doing road upgrades like that. So it's difficult for us throughout the years to put funds towards interior subdivision roads when we need to bring our main roads up to speed. I get the developer's argument about the bonding and the towards not accepting those roads. At the same time, you know, I just don't know if us accepting more roads is where we want to head. So I did make a commitment to him that I would discuss this with the board, and that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Any questions?
Well, this has been going on for quite some time.
It has.
And maybe a little bit of history on why these were not accepted to begin with, and then we had a punch list, and then where we are now might be helpful to new commissioners.
So for Commissioner Buck and Commissioner McDaniels, we did start this many, many years ago. Those filings were built out in like 2004. They were never formally accepted by the county. The county kind of began maintaining them based on, you know, somewhat of a handshake agreement is what I would say. Well, then we had our first public works director, Rory Hale. He and the admin staff determined, hey, those roads were never formally accepted. Let's let the developer know that we're going to quit maintenance until we identify a punch list, perform the punch list, and then they can reapply to have the roads accepted formally. That all took place except for the proper formal request for acceptance, even after the punch list was done. So this went on, and then a letter was sent by the developer's staff to accept Augusta. I do have that right here. But there were no other roads identified in that. So with the commissioners before you guys, we went through all that, went through all these emails, navigated through that. So we just decided we're gonna run with that letter of formal acceptance for Augusta only, because that's the only request that we actually have. So that's how it was determined that we only accept Augusta. Well, the developer was not happy about that, obviously, and then that's why we're here at this point.
I want to also add a couple of things, and
Sure,
maybe
go
you
ahead.
can elaborate. The onus for acceptance of roads is on any developer. The requirement is that the formal process is for them to make a formal request to Road and Bridge, Public Works, and then ultimately to the board. And the board, well, a punch list would be completed, and then the request for final acceptance at that point would come before the board. There would be a recommendation typically from Public Works Director or a designee in order to recommend approval, denial, et cetera. The process was truly only followed closely as far as Augusta Loop. The rest of the roads, there was no formal request that met the county's process requirements. And so I think that's important to note. And also kind of in the interim, during this process, as Monty indicated, was over several year time frame, the warranty period is 2 years. And so initial warranty, the Public Works is going to go out, our county engineer is going to go out and make sure that the roads are initially built to county standards. Because if we're ultimately going to be accepting those roads, we want to make sure they're built correctly, they're of good quality, that maintenance that we're doing is going to be able to be done in an appropriate process, that they're safe, that health, safety, welfare, all of these things that are taken into account for public safety purposes have been accommodated as well. So there is all of these things that are taken a look at. Then there is initial warranty acceptance, and then finally at the conclusion of that 2-year period, the onus, again, as I stated, is on any developer to say, I want to have all of my responsibility for these particular roads totally on the county. I'm going to give these roads to the county. County is going to go ahead and accept these as county roads. Again, as I stated, Augusta Loop's the only one that the whole process was completed on. Somewhere in the middle of this process, we also, as a county, updated our road standards, which is appropriate. That needs to happen every so often. And part of the approach that the county decided to take at that point moving forward was we're going to take a pretty hard look at no longer accepting interior roads for subdivisions and PUDs based on just the level of work and staff commitments and maintenance and that sort of thing, that we want to ensure that we are being good stewards of our equipment, our staff time and that sort of thing, and focusing on roads that really should be county roads. And so really the only interior roads that we're looking at accepting moving forward are going to be roads that are essentially major collectors or that sort of thing, and roads that are essentially going to be a continuation of roads that are already county roads. So a county road 113, if it's going through the middle of a PUD or something like that, then we'll take a look at accepting that road because that's going to have to meet whatever the requirements are for the county road that's going to be connecting to that already. So I think all of those things are important to note for your information and knowledge on why we ended up where we did. Anything to add?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, the previous Public Works Director, the regs state that we may accept a collector road within a subdivision, may being the key word. Collector road, if you just break it down to a collector road, a true collector road is a road that runs through a subdivision that has no addresses on it. So Augusta is a perfect example within Spring Valley. Now, somewhere along in the process, the previous Public Works Director, in my opinion, made some ill-fated decisions on allowing the loop roads from a collector back to a collector to be construed as a collector. Those really aren't a collector. A collector, as I stated, is ones that don't have addresses on them, and we do have those in the filings of Spring Valley. Unfortunately, the other filings of Spring Valley are similar to this exhibit right here, where the collector did get accepted, but so did the loops to and from. So the only reason I guess I had a little bit of confusion in my infancy here as the Public Works Director is consistency within this subdivision and moving forward from there with these older filings.
So what year was Augusta Loop accepted?
Last year, 2024.
So fairly recently.
Yes, that decision was made, again, with, I think, full knowledge of all of the facts that have at least been presented here today. I just want to remind the board and staff here today that no decisions can be made at this meeting.
Correct.
There's already been a decision that's been made with regard to what roads are going to be accepted or not based upon all the facts that have been presented here today and some additional facts previously.
That was made by the previous board?
That's correct. So there's already been a decision made. I think the question has been whether there's a willingness to reconsider that decision, but what I am saying at this point is that decision cannot be reconsidered at this meeting.
Right.
If it's going to be considered at all, it needs to be at a formal meeting where decisions can be made, and that would be most likely at a BOCC meeting, if that's even something that the county wants to pursue.
Thank you.
And again, we're kind of back to, I mean, like I say, we may not have even needed to have this meeting, but we're kind of back to Augusta was the only one that was formally accepted. Everything else has kind of been verbal verbal, honestly.
Well, that was kind of the common practice back in the day. As we've grown and become a little more sophisticated with the PUDs, we've adjusted as where we are. Obviously, I was with the last board when this came up last time. The biggest heartburn I have with it is it was obvious that from all the emails between the previous Public Works Director and the developer, the intention was going forward that would be brought before the board for the board to consider accepting those. And then probably a little bit of, on both sides, a lack of follow through on that led us to where we are today. So it makes it a difficult decision to think, well, there was this intention and now we're taking it away. So it's one of those transition decisions that there's probably no perfect answer on where to come from.
Let me add to, within all of Spring Valley, filings 1 through 10 currently, the developer has signed an agreement with the county that they will take on 100% of snow plowing within Spring Valley and 100% of sign maintenance. So really, and then also on top of that, the Metro District does all the curb and gutter concrete stuff within Spring Valley. So really, the only maintenance burden put upon Public Works Road and Bridge is the asphalt tops themselves. We don't do stormwater, we won't be doing signs, we won't be snow plowing. It's just asphalt maintenance.
So not even Augusta, though? Or what about snow plows on Augusta?
That's all Metro District.
Okay.
And that's a separate atypical agreement that I think certainly has been appreciated by the county.
Yes.
That is not something that is typically seen within a
Yeah,
subdivision.
and if I remember right, that was initiated by the developer.
It was initiated by the developer, and his reasoning for that is a lot of the newer filings have a lot of curb and gutter. He didn't want our big plow trucks in there damaging the concrete since that's on their maintenance, so he just decided from filings 1 through, he would do all of the snow plowing on all the roads. And we have that signed, written document.
Commissioner Book, you got any questions, comments? Commissioner Schroeder?
No, just hypothetically, future costs at maintaining that asphalt.
So I've done some number analysis previously. For us to maintain a mile of interior subdivision roads as a whole throughout the county runs right at about $4,000 a mile annually. Main roads is right at about $6,500 per mile annually. So that's kind of an average. It depends on a lot of variables as far as, you know.
That's if it's built to standard.
That's the variables. If it's built to standard, if it was done right, if the subgrade's right, if the asphalt is of certain thickness, if there's, you know, not abnormal truck traffic on it. I mean, weather, on and on it goes, so.
Do we even know if those roads out there are up to county standards?
They are.
They are? Okay. Do you have an opinion on whether we should consider this, or?
I do. I mean, I did. I hate to be wishy-washy. I was put my foot down on just Augusta, especially with the path we're going forward with not accepting any interior subdivision roads, you know. I wanted to hold the line there. Plus, the regs say only a collector. Now, might be a good salesman or what have you, but since then I've been swayed or have a question mark just based on the fact that this won't be consistent with the other filings of Spring Valley if we only do Augusta.
Okay. Any other?
But a decision has been made. I agree with the attorney. There really shouldn't be any further discussion. We should hold fast here.
Good. Anybody else?
Nothing further.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll adjourn this meeting, and the time is 10:19 a.m. Thank you.